We are recording.
Welcome everyone to our weekly class in Sefer Higayon. As usual, we give just a brief overview, get us located. We said that the book is divided into three parts. One, the first part we spoke about, where he spoke about the concepts themselves, and this middle part, which we're in now, and finally the last part he's going to demonstrate how to use the principles that he's explained. But in the second part, which is the Chelke Higayon, he divides logical thinking into three parts. The terms, which was the major body of the work that we've done already, all the different Siba Mesubavs and Kol and Chelik, etc. And now we're in the second part called Mamarim, and the last part will be Hekashim, which is syllogisms. So we're holding in Mamarim. Let's switch to that chart. Can that be read by you, Avi? It was a little too small.
It's fine. No, it's fine. I can see it.
Okay, good. Okay, here's the breakdown of statements. We said that, first of all, you discussed the parts of the statements, subject and predicate. Those are the two parts. Then we said the kesher, which is whether, in English we use the word is, whether the word is there or not. And then now we've been discussing the last part, which not the last part, the third part actually, the Mamarim in this part, which is the different kinds. So we said you can divide statements according to their kamos, which means that statements are either all statements called Yisrael, Yeshlam Chelek L'Olam Haba, or the Chelki, Yesh Zarus and Iskar, or they're Prati, Yerushalayim, Enam Etam Goyim. Okay, those are three different types of subjects, and that's what he says. You can divide statements according to their kamos. Now the Eichus here, he calls whether the statement is a Makayim or a Shola, whether the statement is saying is or is not. The bread is white, the bread is not white. Okay, that's the kesher. Then he said statements are either stami or tanai. The simple statements, which don't have any condition attached to their predicate. And then there's what he calls, that's the simple ones. Then he calls statements which are qualified. In other words, the predicate is there, but only in a certain way. So he has his primary ones, which he said were the shakal efshar, mania, and hechrach. Fire certainly burns. A man can't fly to the moon. Well, I don't know if that's true now, but okay. By himself without a rocket, let's say. It's possible to become a Talmid Chacham, and when you loan money, it's shakul whether you'll get the money back or not. To doubt. Okay, those were the primary ones, that's what we call the Mugbal over there in Dek Tfunos. And then he had the secondary ones, which were the Matbil, the condition. I like Paris in the springtime when it drizzles. Okay, so when it drizzles, the condition of when I like Paris in the springtime. The Motzi we said was everyone has Kol Yisrael Shem Chelek Olah Chutz Mi'Makshimo. You have a klal, and then you say that there's one prod in the klal that's out, and we discussed the Mamayet, which is Hulu Vado Yaselachem, only Ochel Nefesh Bulvad can be done by you, which means no other malachas on Yom Tov can be done. And we discussed a little last week the difference between the Motzi and the Mamayet. Okay, now he's going to discuss this part, which we put on the chart as the mikra, because he said that he's going to discuss four bechinot aspects of the Pashut statement. He said he's going to discuss the Chalakim, the Kesher, the Min, and the Mikrim. Okay. The question is, what are the Mikrim? He didn't spell it out. But since these are in the next part of the chapter, so it was presumed that the Mikrim are whether statements are true and false, Mukhrach, Efshar, Medakdek, or Lo Medakdek. Okay? The problem is, I'm just bringing up this problem, something to think about, maybe not for the first time through, but something that you should think about that I've been thinking about, is that these Shinui Mamarim, he really never gives a box. Usually, the Ramchal tells you there's two boxes. Like he said, statements are either Pashut or Murkav, right? That's what he says. And then he gives you the subdivisions. In Pashut, you have the Chelek, Kesher, Min, and Mikrim. When it came to the Shinui Mamarim, he puts it before he discusses the Murkav, but he doesn't tell us where it fits in. So on the chart, we put it as on the side. What does that mean? You have the statement itself, and then you have what's called its chiluf, like so now you have the deal. Some people that have a chelak in Olam Haba are Yisrael. Okay, at least some are Yisrael. Okay, so that switching between the subject and the predicate, he brings in the book before this compound group, but he doesn't describe what it is. So I was just thinking myself that maybe Taka, these are also called Mikrim, but that's something a little bit advanced because we haven't gone through the book one time, but I just wanted to put it down. I'll discuss it with David anyway. But let's go through
go ahead. Where does he mention the Shinui Maimer? It's mentioned here in Parak Yud Zayin?
The next parak. The next parak is
going to look at the Shinui Maimer. I see. Okay. Oh, it's the next parak.
Okay. Now, that comes before his discussion of compounds, right? Because after that, the next chapter will be chapter 19 is on the compound statements, right? Which is just really two Pashut statements put together with a Tanai or a conjunction of some sort, an and and an or lo ella. But those are two statements that you join together in a certain relationship, right? But this Shinui, which is and also the Nigur, variations of statements, he doesn't tell us clearly where it belongs. He just puts it before. So in the chart, we put it off on the side because really you have the statements and their variations. That's a different type of pula. In other words, you say you switch the subject and the predicate, okay, or you talk about their opposites. So we put it on the side. But anyway, it's something that we're going to think about. I just wanted to have it put down, and we'll discuss it in more depth after we go through it at least one time. Okay, so let's go through the book itself. Okay, now where were we holding? We were holding, not to get lost here.
Zion, that's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Exactly. So in the chart where we're holding, not to get too lost, we discussed, as we said, the Nosei Nasu, the Chalakim, the Kesher, the different types, okay, whether they're Klali Katsasi, whether they're Tanai, and now we're up to this part, whether they're true or false, etc. That's where we left off, and this is what we're going to call, because he doesn't spell it out, Mikrim, but we called it Mikrim. Okay, there we go. Let's first see what it says, and then we'll try to see where it belongs in the chart. He says, Hamamr yochol liyot met o kozev. Okay, statements can either be true or false. What does it mean? Amitihu shiagid hadava kamoshahu. As my friends in New York used to say, you tell it like it is. Right?
Right.
Okay. A true statement is a statement that says things as they really are. A kozev is shiagi kamosheno. It's a statement that says something that is not. Okay, that means that it's false. Okay. Now he says like this, Ubeshnehem, both the true statements and the false statements, they can be mukhrach or efshari, medukdak or lo medukdak. So let's see what that means. What does mukhrach mean? Mukhrach means hu sheyeh emet ve'i efshar liot kozeh. That the statement is true and it cannot be false. Or the opposite. It's hechrach that is false, kozev, ve'i efshar liot emet, and there's no way it could be true. So the first ones are either absolutely true or absolutely false. That's his first box. Derech mashal. Im tomar achai, mukhrach shiargish. Oh, im tomar achai mukhrach shiargish. It's, I wonder how the other translate. Can you translate that?
I would say that something that's alive must feel or have feelings.
Yeah, so I mean, but I would have said, if he's trying to say something, he should have said, okay, no, that's good. Achai, that's right. The statement is, a living thing must feel. Okay, so that statement is either true or false. So if it's mukhrach, either true or false, right?
Right.
Either living things feel or they don't feel. Correct. Okay. What's efshar? Efshari shehu emet v'yochol liot sheker. Or lehefech, it could be sheker v'yochol liot emet. So the second type of statements are statements that are true but could be false, or false and could be true. What does that mean? Derech mashal. Ha'adam efshar sheyechiyeh harbe. It's possible for a man to live long. So that could be true for any particular man, or it could be false. Now, you notice I said for any particular man. He didn't say people could possibly live long. Ha'adam, I think that means a particular person. It's possible for a particular person to live long. I say Shmuel can live long. Well, it could be true and it could be false. Why? Because maybe you won't live long. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, makes sense.
So statements are either absolutely true or they can't be true. So, I mean, okay, that's what he says. Efshari. Now, the second thing he talks about is literal and figurative statements. Statements are either medukdak. What does that mean? Literal. Mama shioreh b'milosav kufi harasan b'dikduk. It's a statement whose words are properly expressing what they're saying exactly. He'll give an example. The lo medukdak hu shioreh b'milosav shelo kufi harasan hadikduk. They don't mean exactly what they say. What does that mean? We'll see with Derek Marshall. Im tomar al gibor echad, ze ha'ish hu ari. If you say about a certain powerful person, he's a lion. So lo tavin aryeh mamash ela libo kalev ari. He has a heart like a lion. Okay, so the lo medukdak means that it's talking about a figurative use of the word. So when I said that he's a lion, it's not to be understood in its medaktek way, but in its slow medaktek or its figurative way. Okay? So statements, now that you have to know if they're true or false, because a statement could be false in its literal way, but true in its figurative way. Okay?
So he's only giving the example of lo medukdak.
Yeah, because medukdak would be that like say the statement he brought from us, a lion came up from Babel. If we're talking about a real live lion, so that would be a statement that was medukdak, right?
Right.
But if we're talking as Rav Kahana and using an analogy, so that's called lo medukdak. So the truth and falsity of the statement really depends whether it's being used in its literal sense or in its figurative sense. Okay?
Yep.
Good. All right. So now we're going to go to this idea of a chiluf, which has to be understood. Okay. What is a chiluf? A chiluf is like this. A chiluf hamamar hu som hanose b'makom hanasu v'hanasu b'makom hanose v'hi hamama amiti. He defines it as the following. You switch places between the subject and the predicate, and the statement is still true. Okay? So we discussed this in Der Tunos when we spoke about diyukim. Okay? Inferences that are mukhrach. So if I say that all buses have wheels, so it has to be that some wheeled things are buses. Now, he's going to go through all different variations, but I think the important thing to note here is when you convert or transform a statement and switch the subject and predicate, what you're really saying is you want to talk about a different relationship. In other words, if I say, Kol Yisrael Yeshnam Chelek L'Olam Haba, I'm telling you something about all the Jewish people. They're in the category of having Chelek L'Olam Haba. When I switch the order and I start talking about all the people that have a Chelek L'Olam Haba, and that's my no-say, and I want to know what's the relationship to the Jewish people, so that's showing me the predicate relationship. So I don't know if everyone who has a Chelek L'Olam Haba is a Jew. That I don't know. Okay? Minimum that some are. But what I'm trying to explain here is that this is not just a mathematical set of switching subject and predicate. What you're really trying to determine here is the relationship of one to the other. The subject to the predicate, and then when you take the predicate, you put it as a subject, and you want to know its relationship now to that, what used to be the subject. Is that clear?
Yeah, but it's interesting the way he words it, is that he's saying the chiluf maimar is when it's called the chiluf maimar when it's true.
Because not all of them, very good, not all of them are going to be true.
So then that's
not every time. He's going to only define, he's going to tell us, his definition is really talking about the diyukim mufrachim. In other words, Kol Yisrael Yeshnam Chelek L'Olam Haba. But if I just do a simple chiluf, then it's not true. It may not be true, for instance. So all the people that have in the Chelek L'Olam Haba are Jews. That may be true, and may not be true. Okay, it could be true, but maybe it's not. So he's going to tell you of the chilufim that we're going to make, there's only a certain set that are going to be mukhrach, that they must be true. Others may possibly, as he said, may possibly be true, but we don't know. Okay, so let's go through it a little and one time, and then go back, because it's again, we don't usually do these things so consciously, but let's see how he spells it out. But remember, as you said, he wants to do this conversion of switching places of subject and predicate, and he wants them both to come out true, which is what we call the mukhrach. So first he describes like this. He says, "V'yesh bo shlosha minei." There's three types of these conversions. Okay, this one we use a nice word there. What do you call it when you switch the subject? Yeah, the converse. Yeah, conversion is good. Okay, there's three types of converses. One is called the pashut, the other one is the mikri, and one is the hefchit. What's the difference? The pashut one, hu chiluf nosei b'nasu v'nishma kamos ve'echus. It's a conversion where, of course, you're going to all the time switch subject and predicate, but you're going to leave the kamos. In other words, if the subject was an all, subject will stay all. If it was a partial, it will stay partial. And also the echos. If it was a affirmative statement, it'll remain affirmative. If it was a negative statement, it'll remain negative. So he's going to spell that out. Perisho. Shenishmar mechayev imuyan mechayev. The statement, even though we switch the places of subject and predicate, if it was a affirmative statement, it'll remain that way. Oh, if it's a sholel statement, it'll remain a sholel. V'chein hakamos. Meaning, if it was a klali statement, it remains klali. If it was a partial statement, it remains partial. So he says, derech mashal. Kol adam hu bal chai medaber. All men are speakers. All men speak. Now we're going to switch subject and predicate, and we're going to talk about Kol adam hu bal chai medaber.
All men speak.
All men are speaking animals. It's in bal chai, speaking animals. Okay. Kol bal mechaber, kol bal chai medaber hu adam. And all speaking animals are man. Okay? So we switch the subject and the predicate. The first statement was a klali statement. It remained klali. It also was affirmative, and it remained affirmative. Okay? So that's called a chiluk pashut. Why pashut? Because we left everything alone except the converse of the subject, the converse positions of the subject and predicate. Okay? That's his first part. What's called a mikri? A mikri is yishmor ha'echus. We're going to keep the affirmative or negative the same way it was, and we're going to change the commas. It's going to go from like an all to a sum, or from a sum to an all. Let's see his derech mashal. So he says, Kol medaber hu chai. Every speaking thing, all that speak are alive. The ezechai, but some live things, hu medaber, are speakers. Okay, so there we switched subject and predicate. Of course, all the time we do that, but we also switched the commas. We switched the call to a sum, the all to a sum, and we left it affirmative. Okay, so that's called, he calls that mikri. Okay, so we just switch places of subject and predicate, and we left it affirmative or not, and we changed the amounts of the subject. Okay? That's what it says. Now he has what he calls the hefchi. Because we're going to start playing with the affirmatives and negatives now. The hefchi shishmor hakamos. Now we're going to leave the commas alone. If it was a general, it will stay general. If it's a partial, stay partial. But we'll change whether it's affirmative or negative. So here, if it was a positive, we'll change it to a negative. Here's an example. Kol medaber ubal chai. All speaking things are living, are alive, okay, are living things. With kol she'eno bal chai, all things that are not alive do not speak, are not speakers. So he denied the predicate. He said, let's talk about those things which are not bal chai, right? Also here, he said, those things which are not bal chai, he also denied the subject too. He said they're also non-speakers. Okay, so we have to so I would have just said it. You could just change the echus by saying kol medaber hu bal chai and kol bal chai and a medaber, right?
Again, kol.
Why didn't he say here? Okay, the first statement is kol medaber hu bal chai, right?
Because, so in the first, let's analyze. In the first statement, the topic, the subject is things which are medabrim. And he's saying about the things which are medabrim that they are balei chayim.
Correct.
And then in order to reverse it, we have to now talk about the Baal Chai as the subject.
Right.
So, but we want to talk about things, well, we want to reverse it. We want to reverse the echos. So we're going to talk about things which are not Baal Chai. And then in order for the statement to remain true, we have to say things which are not Baal Chai are not medabrim.
So why didn't he, if he's just changing the, I just asked the simple, you're right, this will work out to be true. All medabrim are.
What would be the other choice?
The other choice would, what about the statement of kol Baal Chai eino medaber?
Because it's not true.
It's not true, right?
Right.
So, but what I bring out with that is, look what he did. He negated both the subject and the predicate. Kol she'eino Baal Chai. Right, both of them don't work. No, he should have said technically, it's actually, you're right, it doesn't work, make sense, that's why I didn't say it. But technically, if I was only going to change the affirmative to a negative, I should have only changed this one. And I should have left this. I should have been kol Baal Chai eino medaber, which makes no sense, right?
Right.
So it's just interesting that he negated both the subject and the predicate. When I'm just making an observation. Normally, I thought that just the kesher should be inverted, but here he not only inverted the kesher, he also inverted the subject from Baal Chai to the eino Baal Chai. It's interesting.
I thought you were going to ask something else.
Yeah.
That once you invert the subject, it's not the same subject anymore. Because in the first sentence, we're talking about, let's reverse it without reversing the echos, right? So to reverse it we're talking about things which are balei chayim. Now he's changing the echos, so we're talking about things which are not balei chayim. It's a whole different category. We're not talking about the same thing anymore. So the statement is not the same statement. But maybe that's his point, that you could take the opposites, or the echos is taking the same thing and reversing it.
You're forced to say logically this is the only diuk that you could make, but it's just technically it's talking about, as you say, it's not. What about, for instance, just to bring out your question a little more, what about the box of all the non-speakers? He didn't speak about boxes of non-speakers, did he? So how come now he's talking about the non-balei chayims? Right?
Right.
I'm just making your question worse in a certain way. What about the non-speakers? What can you say about the non-speakers? How come you can talk about non-speakers too? Okay, so I don't know how to answer you. I know that this is true, what he's saying, but it's
interesting the way he's categorizing it, that's all. That's the...
Yeah. Okay. I can't say any more than that. We'll have to just think about it.
Think about this, okay.
I'll try to get back and discuss it with your brother there, see what he says. Okay, anyway, now he's going to give us the rules of which conversions, if that's the correct word, which converses work. What that means, that the converse will be true. Now, this is good in two places, by the way. This is good. He's really talking about the Yukim, but if you remember in Derek Tunos, he also talked about Hashvos Memory, which he doesn't talk about here. If you want to compare two statements and to see if they're either identical and undo each other, or they're related in a certain way. So this is very important to know. If two statements are related and one is the diuk of the other, it's a very important thing to know. But the main where he brought this down really was in the Yukim. But anyway, let's see the logic of this. Okay, he says these are the rules of a chiluf. These are the ones that are going to work. That if I have the statement and then I do this conversion, it's going to turn out that both of them are true, which means that the diuk is going to be mukrach. Okay, so he says like this: the chiluf of a klali mechayev. If I do a chiluf on all men have legs, so then there's two conversions that are going to be true. All men have legs, chelke mechayev, some that have legs are men, and the klali shola. None, those that don't have legs are not men. He's going to give examples. The chiluf chelke mechayev is going to be the chelke mechayev, and the chiluf klali shola will be the klali shola. And he says the chelke shola won't have any mukhrach diuk, although he's going to explain it. Yeah. But okay, let's go slowly on this, okay? A lot of technical stuff here. The first example is called the chiluf of a kolel mechayev. What's a kolel mechayev? All men are alive. All men live. Kol adam chai. Okay. No, why I picked that example? That's what he did.
So that's a klali. So because you're talking about kol adam, we're saying about kol adam that they are chai.
Right. So now he says what would be mukrach is called a chelki mechayev. So I invert it, and I take a portion of the predicate. So I say kol.
Ezachai. You have to remember before that. Ezachai.
Excuse me, I mixed up here.
Ezachai Adam.
Ezachai Adam, I'm sorry. Self-living things are men.
Right, so that's a chelki mechayev.
Right. Okay. I don't like the first example. What does it mean all men are alive? Okay, I guess by definition, I don't know. But anyway, I always said all buses have wheels, right? So it has to be that some things with wheels are buses.
Right.
Right? Or Kol Yisrael Yeshnam Chelek Olam Haba. So it has to be some of the people in Olam Haba are Jews. It doesn't have to be all of them. It's at least some of them. Maybe all of them, yes. But the only that's mukhrach is that some of them are. Okay? And here's the other deal. Kol she'eno chai, eno adam. Right? All buses have wheels. Anything that doesn't have wheels is not a bus. Or all Jews have a chelek in Olam Haba. Anything that doesn't have a chelek in Olam Haba can't be a Jew either. Okay, and this is what bothered you because it seems it's a different subject, but it's the opposite. It's the negation of the predicate, which works, right?
Right.
Okay, so those diukim are mukhrach. Those are the two mukhrach diukim of the converse type. Okay, of the converse type. Now, let's talk about the Eza Adam Chai, the sum type. Okay. Some men are alive. Okay. So now let's invert it. Excuse me. Some men, maybe it means better, some men are living things.
Eza Adam Chai.
Okay. Some men are living. Okay, let's put it that way. Some that are living are men.
Well, that's the reverse.
Yeah, but is it mukhrach? Let's say some men are Jews. Some men are Jews. Some Jews are men. Doesn't make any sense. Eza Adam Chai, the Eza Chai Adam. Go look at the. Oh, sorry.
One second. Let's see what he says here.
Okay, so some men are living things. That's how we translate. Okay, that's better.
Some men are living things. And it's not a true
And some
statement.
live.
Is it a true statement? Some men, there are men that are not living things. You want to call it? I guess there are people that
Oh,
are.
so that's. Let's get what it means. It means that. Yeah, it means only. It's some. Oh yeah. Okay. What does it mean? Some men are living things.
Is a person called a man after he's dead? He could
Okay,
be.
that's the question. So to make sense, it has to be that that some men are in the category of living things. Let's take another example, okay? No, it doesn't work. I said some Jews, or no, some people, let's do it that way. Some people are Jews, right? Some in the category of people happen to be Jews, right?
Right. Here's another example. Eza Adam Eine Chacham, or Eza Chacham Hu Adam, or you can reverse it to say that there are Eza Adam Hu Chacham.
Some men are wise.
Right.
Wait a minute, doesn't make sense. If some men are wise,
Could you say some wise are men? I don't know. Could you have anybody who's wise who's
doesn't
not
make
a man?
sense.
No.
Because I understand this. It has to be that's a minimum. That's a minimum.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's the minimum of what you could say. That's what I said. Some men, some Jews, no, some men are Jews, right? So it doesn't matter. Some Jews are men. All Jews are men. But it's not mukhrach. I think that's the point. It's not mukhrach. It may work out, but it's not mukhrach. Let's see one that's not mukhrach.
In the bottom here, of the Hebrew version,
Yeah.
he says, "Yehad dio kashlish haba min hamaymer chalki mechayev kamoi bedugma delakaman." It says min hamaymer. He says, "Tzura hakol shal diak zehu yesh aleph shehu beis, yesh beis shehu aleph." Okay, that's all he says. It doesn't explain any further. I mean, if you say yesh beis shehu aleph, yesh aleph shehu beis, yesh beis shehu aleph, I can understand that. But without having to put any examples to it, you can say there are some. I mean, when you drew those circles back in
Yeah, I
Derech
have them right
Tfunis, so you could say that
here.
there are some things that are in category A that are in category B, and there are some things that are in category B that are in category A. But when you use Eza Adam, Chai, and Eza Chai Adam, in the English translation, he's touching the Eza Adam means there are some.
Yeah. 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 I'm just looking for the here.
Yeah, something like this, right?
Here. Okay. So let's do the Makayim. Okay. Yeah, this is the call, right? We said every okay. Kali Sholo. Don't want Kali Sholo. Okay. Okay. This was the Kali Makayim, okay? So that one works, That one works. Now we don't have any problems with and you can get to that one here. This one. He says, Yesh Zariz Veniska. Excuse me. Yesh Zariz Veniska, right? So here's the Zrizim, and they're in the category of Niskarim, but not all the category of Zerizim are in the Niskarim. Some of the Zerizim are Niskarim, and some of the Zerizim are not Niskarim, right?
Right.
Is that clear? Okay. So he says, V'diuk mimenu ye she'eno niskar v'hu zares. And again, that's the
So that's the opposite, right? Because when we medayik from the positive of yesh zares v'niskar, we could infer from that there are some niskarim that are not zrizim. Or
exactly.
Or he's saying there are some, right? And there are some that are not niskar, but they're still zares.
Exactly. That's over here, right? That's in this light blue part, right?
Right. Right.
Which he doesn't talk about in Hikayon. But here he says, Echad min niskarim hu zares. It has to be that one of these niskarim is a zares, right?
Right. Now,
It may be that all of them are. At least one has to be. So it really has to be some of B, at least one is a better way to say it, at least one of B, or one of P, the predicate here, is a subject. So when he says here in this one,
so if you wanted to, let's use the same sentence and see if we could reverse it, because this is really the same. This is the chiluf chelki amachayev, because we're saying yesh zariz v'niskar, so you would reverse it to say yesh niskar shehu zariz, which that makes perfect sense.
yes, but that's right. Yesh niskar shehu zaris.
Right.
Right. So here, in his example, why are we getting stuck here?
We're getting stuck because we're bringing it to reality. In reality, the sense is not true.
Work.
Right. When you do it over here, yesh zaris v'niskar, that's in reality that works. There are some reasons that are niskar, because there are some reasons that are not niskar. So it's not. So it's and you can reverse it, the chil of the chalkim mechayiv, and say that there are yesh niskar. There are some who get schar, and there is reason. There are some who get schar, and there are not reason. And included in the zaris are niskarim, and included in the niskarim are reason.
So here he's saying, he said some men are alive. Well, that's really this statement.
Right.
What?
Right.
Some men are living things. Okay, that's this box here. I can't point to it here. That's whatever, this box here.
Right.
Okay, those are the men who are living things.
Right.
And he says here that there has to be some living things that are men. Some in the box of this predicate has to be men, which is exactly that. Okay, so why were we getting mixed up?
We're getting hung up because of the truth of the sentence, that's all. Because we're saying Eza Adam Chai. So what does that mean? That there are some people that are not alive? Or some living? Eza Adam.
Yeah.
Some Adams are Chai. And some Adams are not Chai.
Some men are living things. That's, I understand. You're right. It's not a clear predicate.
Right.
That's like we said. Some men are Jews.
Well, right.
See, that also doesn't work. If
that doesn't work.
Some men are Jews, right? Some men are Jews, but it doesn't mean that some Jews are men. But what it means, though, is at least one Jew has to be a man.
Right.
That's why I said let's look for a place where it would work. In other words, where only some. In other words, some is a minimum.
Right.
Like I'm just trying to think of where the maximum would be true also, but we can only say the minimum. Just give me 1 second. Some Jews wear kippot, right? But not all the kippot wearers are Jews.
Right.
But there has to be some kippot wearers are Jews.
Right.
Right? Okay, there's an example. So what he's saying is what's mukhrach. What's mukhrach is that there has to be some, but it doesn't. Sometimes it's all, but that's what's mukhrach.
Right.
Okay, I think
that's probably the shot. Right.
Right. Okay. Okay. So now that was the Chelki Makayim, right? Now he's going to talk about the Klali Sholel. Ein shum adam eben. No man is a rock. Okay. So then that's an easy one. If no man is a rock, no rock is a man. No man is a rock, then no rock is a man, right? No A is B means no B is A also.
Right.
And okay, that was no problem. Now I think you brought that second here. These two boxes are disassociated. Okay, now this one again will give us a little bit of a problem. Some men are not wise. Some men are not wise. Okay, so let's look at the negative thing here. Yesh kachim shein lahem pidyon. Some men are not wise, right? Now he says over here that there's no chiluf that's mukhrach at all, except what he calls the hefki'i. Okay, the hefki'i, which with Hashem will start out here also. Okay. Some who are wise are men. But let's get slowly here what he says. Okay, first of all, some men are not wise. Okay? So here's a category of men. And here's wisdom. And here, this light blue here, over here, is the category of things which are the some men who are not in the category of the blue, right?
Right.
That's this thing, okay?
Right. So the whole light blue circle would be people that are wise. So there are some, or there would be people rather. Right. The dark blue would be the people that are wise. So you have some people that are wise, and some people that aren't.
Right. So this blue is people that are not wise. Instead of the word pigeon, we'll say wise. And the darker blue are the people that are wise.
Right.
Right? Okay. So he says there's no chiluf that's mukhrach. We can't say anything about the wise people except one statement, which he calls the hefki, which is some who are wise are men.
Right.
Some who are wise have to be men, right? Now, how come in Derek Tunos he does give some? of the chiluf. Let's look at the different notes. Okay. Yesh kachim shein lahem pidyon. So we said that's this out here we have two types of kachim that have pigeon and kachim that don't have pigeon. So out here is the light blue is the kachim that don't have pigeon.
Right.
So he says, okay, yesh kachim, yesh lahem pigeon, vehem kachim. Now look at that chiluf. Wait a minute. First of all, he says yesh kachim sheyesh lahem. Excuse me. The statement says like this: yesh kachim she'ein lahem pigeon.
Right.
Okay, that's the light blue we said. Now this is not a chiluf.
That's not right because that's the same nosei and nosu as the one before.
Exactly. We didn't switch anything. But look at this. Yesh sheyesh lahem pigeon vehem kachim. There are certain ones that have pigeon. There are also kachim. That's this middle.
Right. So what kind of chiluf is that? That's a.
So we kept the commas, and we also kept the echos, right?
No.
Yesh.
I'm sorry. We switched the echos.
We switched the echos.
Because before it said ein lam pidyon, now it's saying yesh lam pidyon.
So we switched the echos.
Now to go to the third one, see the third one would be the same echos. Yesh she'ein lam pidyon.
Exactly. Yesh ein lahem pidyon, right? Lahem kachim.
Right, and the same commas also because it's what was the sentence again? Scroll back up.
The original sentence. Let me make it bigger. Okay. The original statement is
yesh kachim she'ein lahem pidyon.
Yeah, that's the original statement.
So by reversing it, we're saying yesh she'ein lahem pidyon. So that's the same. It's the same commas and echos, right? Although before we're talking about
no.
Yes.
It's the commas and echos. That's correct.
The hem kachim.
Because it's yesh she'ein lahem pidyon, right?
Yeah. So which one does this fit into? So is this chalki hasholol? No, so you're saying that this is a shol because it's ein lam pidyon, and that's therefore the same as eza adam ein chacham. It sounds like it's the same, right? If you say yesh kachim eza adam ein lam pidyon would be ein chacham, would be a very similar structure.
Right.
And
so here,
so why can we reverse that? So how would we reverse it the same way like number 3? We would say yesh eza she'ein chacham hu adam.
Say it again.
Yesh eza she'ein chacham or eza she'ein chacham hu adam.
Yesh she'ein chacham hu adam.
Right. That makes sense.
Right.
Because there are some people that are not chacham. I know plenty of them. There are plenty of people that are not chacham.
There's a couple of excluded, I hope. Okay. Okay. So how come he didn't say? How come he says it's not?
In chilufay much. What does that mean in chilufay muchrach? That it's not.
It's not mukhrach that has to be true. He says there's no true mukhrach, but he says ki ima hefki. Oh.
So maybe with.
He says there's only one. Oh, I read it wrong. Ugh. No, it's ein chiluf mukhrach ki im hahefki. Not ein chiluf mukhrach. It's ein chilufo mukhrach ki im hahefki. The only one that's mukhrach is the hefki.
It's the opposite.
Now, what's the hefki? What's the hefki? First of all, here, this one we can eliminate because this one is not a chiluf, right? It's going to help myself down here. That's not a chiluf, so forget about it. These two are chilufim, right? Yesh lehem pidyon, vehem, yesh le, yesh lahem pigeon. That's the subject, right?
Right.
That's the reverse of she'ein lahem pigeon,
Right.
right? That's the hefech. Vehem kodshim. And then he says, yesh she'ein lahem pigeon also vehem kodshim.
Right. So yesh she'ein lahem pigeon v'hem kodshim is not a hefki. That's just the chilufai.
No, they're all chilufim, right?
Yeah,
First
but
of all, they're all
which is
chilufim. But which one is the hefki?
the hefki would be the opposite. If you would say Eza Adam Ein Chacham, you would have to say, what would the opposite of that be?
Well, let's do yesh kodshim, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So yesh kodshim she'ein lahem pigeon, you would say the opposite of that would be so you want to switch it around and make the pigeon to be the subject, right?
Right, which we did.
So you would say
Right.
yesh something that has pigeon. You would instead
This
of
one is, I think, called the hefki, no?
No,
Yesh
no.
she'ein lahem pigeon, no?
because that's the same. That's not a hefki. I don't know what does hefki mean.
yeah.
Hefki means the opposite. You would have to talk about something that has pigeon, has kachim.
You're right. You're right. That's this one, right?
Right, that would be the hefki, I would
That's
think.
the hefek. There's something that
Right.
does have pigeon, has kodshim. That's correct, right? That's
Right.
the opposite of
Right.
ein lahem pigeon. He says yesh lahem pigeon, right? We left the commas alone and we switched the places, right?
Because in number 3 is actually not true. Yesha ein lahem pigeon. Are there? Well, no, that's not true. Okay, no, it is true because there are certain types of kachim that don't have pigeon, right?
Over here, right?
You could have
There's
things of kachim which don't have pigeon, whatever it is. Kachim doesn't have.
right.
So why is he saying it's not true? When you do a reverse, when you do a chiluf of a shalal, he's saying a chalki shalal ein chiluf muchrach loy ki im
He says the only one that's
hafki.
mukhrach. He's not saying. He's saying only the hefki is mukhrach, which is
But
he
the other
says
one is
this
not.
one, right? The third one. But he says number 2 is not mukhrach.
Right. Right. It happens to be in this case it's true.
So maybe we'll find other. We'll have to think again. Maybe we'll find other places where it's not true, but it's going to be a problem. Be steering their tfunos stuff, right? Because tfunos, he says these are mukhrach, and over here he's claiming it's not mukhrach. So
Right. And unless we don't understand well enough what muchrach means.
yeah. Well, I mean, I understood tfunos mukhrach.
Right.
But it's the minimum you could. Once you have the original statement, he says the second statement has to be true. Right? If you have the first statement is true, then the second one must be true. The bilti mukhrach is all the things of language, and but these are just mathematical views. Okay. Anyway, we'll we opened up the topic. By next week, maybe we'll I'll speak a little bit more. Or you'll think about it more. I'll try to speak with David, and we'll try to straighten this out better.